This is We the People News. Just me again. Alright? Not an attorney. Not giving legal advice. Never just look straight forward. Always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Okay? Anything I say or do, it's just my opinion. This is education only. And I'm not an attorney. So I am not giving legal advice, even though it sounds like it. Alright? Um, now, most things that your rights are violated on is in your local area. And it's the lower courts that's actually doing most of the violation. Okay. And my phone's acting up. So sorry about the recording. But the words is the ones that's important right now. All right. So let's see what else he has to say.
Both how grateful we are for our many blessings and also acknowledging the source of those blessings. That's exactly what our founding fathers did when they wrote the Texas Constitution, which begins by humbly invoking the blessings of Almighty God. All right, so on to the suggestions. And I'll start with the top priority. If we want to attract and retain hardworking rule of law judges who are qualified to wield the extraordinary power our Constitution gives them, it is absolutely essential that we raise judicial salaries significantly this session. Texas ranks 48 out of 50 in terms of what we pay our district judges. That is not good. We're attracting people and businesses from all over the country, and a big reason is because Texas has the reputation as the kind of place where people can rely on the rule of law and where people can enjoy all of the peace and freedom and flourishing that comes with it. But if we want the rule of law to be more than just pretty words, if we want it to be a reality in the everyday lives of Texans, then the most important thing we can do is encourage smart and serious and hardworking people of high integrity who are committed to the rule of law to serve as judges and to stay as judges. But more and more it's hard to do that because of what we pay. And if these were just any government employees, those of you who know me, you know that I would be more likely to recommend a Department of Government Efficiency than a pay raise. But we're not talking about bureaucrats. We're talking about the constitutional officers of a co-equal branch of government, the officers who wield the judicial power of the state of Texas, officers prohibited by their ethical obligations from earning additional income, which distinguishes them from your positions in the legislature. And let me say thank you for the extraordinarily hard work you do for almost no pay. But judges are full-time constitutional officers who we pay significantly less than hundreds and hundreds of lawyers who work in our executive branch. Even though the judges' jobs are so much more important and the judges wield so much more power. Think about the power your local judges have over the families and businesses in your district. The power to take your money, to take your property, to take your freedom, to take your children. In terms of the economic impact on the 8th largest economy in the world, every 2 years the amount of money that's at stake, the total amount of money at stake in Texas courtrooms, by my rough calculations, is roughly on par with the amount of money that this body will be considering in the budget later this session. And that's not to mention the enormous impact of the litigation climate on the business climate and the employment climate. Who do we want wielding all of that power and influence? Surely we want the most serious, most qualified, hardest working judges we can get. And the bottom line is this: you'll get what you pay for. Higher pay means more highly qualified people will apply. It means more highly qualified people will stay in the job for longer. That's true of any job. And if we're serious about attracting and retaining great judges, of course salaries aren't the only piece of the puzzle, but they're an essential piece, and we can't ignore it. We have, though, pretty much ignored it for quite a while. The legislature has not raised the base pay for district judges since 2013, even as inflation has skyrocketed and as salaries for qualified lawyers have, in the private and public sector, have risen dramatically. The Judicial Compensation Commission has recommended a 30% increase in the base pay for judges this session. And that is what I am asking you to do. 30% across the board. If that sounds high, it's only because the salary hasn't gone up in 12 years. Total inflation since 2013, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, has been 34.5%. So I'm not even asking you to keep up with inflation. And I'm only asking that we bring Texas from number 48 to number 31 out of 50. And that may not be a particularly inspiring number, but I promise you this, if you make the commitment that I'm asking for this session, I will not be back next session asking for more money for our judges. The money is there this session, and this session is the time for the legislature to demonstrate in a dramatic and lasting way how serious we are in Texas about promoting the rule of law in our courtrooms. And I know you have a lot of people asking you for money.
Now, I do agree with them. They do need a raise if our courts actually obeyed the law. Right? I challenge subject matter jurisdiction. Personal jurisdiction. They just always automatically say they have it, but they never show they do or clearly decide. There's Supreme Courts that says they have to do it. And again, what do? They ignored their bosses and still say, well, I just got it because I'm magical. All right? So, if these judges have subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction, then it's zero problems in that court. The issue that stands at hand, why don't they have it? And why don't they say how they have it? If they don't tell you what it is, then it's what the Founding Father says. If they're doing something behind closed doors, is where tyranny begins. And that's been proven over centuries. Not just in the United States. Centuries. This is how they violate our due process rights. This is how they violate our constitutional rights. Oh, don't bring a constitution in my court. Well, the statutes you're using actually have to come and match what authority the Constitution, right? Does that statute actually apply in the Constitution authority? If it don't, then it does not exist. If it does not exist, then they cannot have standing in court. They does not have subject matter jurisdiction and personal jurisdiction. But gee, I wonder why they don't tell you.
I appreciate that. And you might listen to this and think, those judges are just another group with their hands out. But that's not what this is. Don't think about it that way. I'm not asking you to do this for the judges. I'm certainly not asking you to do it for me. You're welcome to do whatever you want with my salary. But don't do this for the judges. Do it for your constituents who have to appear before the judges, who have the power to take their money and their house and their children. Do it for the thousands of Texans whose families and whose fortunes are on the line every day in courtrooms across Texas. Do it so that you know you've done your part to help us attract and retain the kind of truly excellent people of high integrity who ought to be putting on robes and making decisions of enormous consequence for your constituents. Do it because you have a constitutional obligation to fund the judicial branch at a level that allows for fair and efficient justice to be done across our state, not for the benefit of judges, but for the benefit of the people of Texas, who deserve to see that fair and efficient justice is done. I understand the concern that there are a few...
Then do your job and earn the freaking raise.
Judges who are not pulling their weight. And frankly, they don't deserve a raise. I agree. But I'm not asking you to give this or that person a raise. That's not the way to think about this. I'm asking you to raise the stature and the appeal of these offices, which encourages more good people to apply for them. But I won't deny that there are a few judges who may not be working as hard as the job demands. And I have no tolerance for that. I'm proud of the vast majority of my fellow judges who work hard every day delivering justice.
Already did that on the short.
And their answer wasn't tough luck, vote them out in 4 years. No, they gave us tools to fix these problems in the very rare cases where they arise. And if we forget about these tools, or we don't use them because we think it will be too difficult, or it might make us look bad, then we're not allowing our Constitution to operate the way it was designed. Instead of holding down the salaries of 98% of judges because 2% of them aren't doing their job, we should use the power the Constitution gives us to make the 2% find another job. And we should pay all our judges a salary that is commensurate.
Again, I already showed that.
That text violates the Constitution. But again, when it comes to the Constitution, we are bound by text that we didn't choose. And we're bound not just by the Constitution.
Sorry.
Statute is the law, whether the legislature, which is to faithfully and consistently apply the laws that you write. Our promise to you is to apply the laws you write based strictly on their text. We will ask ourselves, what words have been enacted into law, and what do those words mean to the ordinary reader of English? That's it. We don't ask ourselves, did the legislature really mean what they said? Or wouldn't something a little different be more sensible? And we certainly don't ask, do we like this law or not? The text of the statute is the law, whether the judges like it or not.
And no, it's not. You got to read the statute and see which constitutionality gives it any authority, right? If you're just going by statute, then you're not doing your job to find out that if it's Texas constitutional authority-wise. If you're just going by statute, then any statute could break state constitution, and you're not upholding the oath of office to stand for the Constitution.
And we are bound to follow it. And the words of an enacted bill, not the aspirations of the bill's supporters, and not the instructions sent to ledge counsel, are what has passed both houses and the governor, and thereby achieved the status of law. Our obligation is to follow the text that you enact, and only that text. The only exception is if that text violates the Constitution. But again, when it comes to the Constitution, we are bound by text that we didn't choose. And we're bound not just by the constitutional text, but also by what the text meant to the people who originally ratified it. Our Constitution...
Resisting arrest. 38.03 says that it's okay for cops to arrest you and there's no remedy. Well, no. That's a violation of Article 1. Alright? But you're going to go ahead and rule that it's okay for the officers to violate people's rights because of the statute. Well, it's in conflict with Article 1, the Bill of Rights. And that statute cannot stand.
Means the same thing yesterday, today, and tomorrow, until the people of Texas decide to change it. This is called constitutional originalism. And under this Supreme Court, it is the law in Texas. There's a competing way to read our Constitution. It's called the Living Constitution. It says that the Constitution's meaning evolves over time in response to fashionable moral trends, or so-called evolving standards of decency. It says the Constitution is a living document, and the Supreme Court's job is to give it life, to decide for us when its meaning is to change. The problem, of course, is that this way of understanding the Constitution puts the judges, not the people, in charge of whether the Constitution will change. And that is not the rule of law. It sounds much more like the rule of judges.
All right. Now, I like that one. Can't argue with that. He is absolutely correct. This We the People News. Bye, y'all.